Welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Today we are going to discuss about petrodollars and euro-dollar markets. As we know, in international currency markets, these two concepts plays very crucial role. So let's start with what is this petrodollar. As we all know, soon after the World War, USA strategically has seen that to strengthen their currency value in the global market, it has negotiated with the particularly Saudi Arabia and other OPEC nations, convinced that for whoever wants to buy the crude oil from the international market can borrow or can pay only through the dollar form. So hence it has given a specific idea of petrodollars. That is become the petrodollars is the only one which has actually dominated across the currencies. So USA has become a dominance currency. The two major markets which are under the dollar transaction outside the US America is, this is a petrodollar market and euro-dollar market. Okay. So because people may be confused why this is called petro and why euro-dollar, that we will talk a little later in our coming few slides. But now try to see that these two dollars are traded outside the US economy. Now first we will start with the petrodollar. As I told you, this petrodollar refers to the US dollar earned by the oil exporting countries from selling oil. Right? I hope it is clear. Petrodollars refers to US dollars earned. How do they earn? By selling oil from oil exporting countries, particularly like say OPEC nation, oil exporting countries, petroleum exporting countries. That is like as I told you, Saudi Arabia and so on, other crises. So in the 1973, we have seen in the global economy a major oil crisis. So USA made a deal with the Saudi Arabia to price oil only in USD, that is in a dollars. So this idea was accepted by these OPEC nations and it has made mandatory that the countries which are wanted to import oil from these OPEC countries has to pay only in the dollar, the petrodollars. So by return, USA promised that they would supply their required all kinds of goods and services to these nations. So once it is created, then what impact it is created we will now try to see. Soon after the idea was accepted and floated the petrodollar, so demand for dollar has increased across the globe in a very big way. Because as we all know, oil plays a very crucial role. What is that oil about? Your petrol, diesel. So the most important one which is for a transport kind of every it is very, very important. As we all know, India's imports also, one of the most expenses we spent only importing oil, that is crude oil. So now when you want to buy this crude oil or oil, you need to have a dollar in your hand, because the dollars only is an accepted currency, because the both OPEC countries and the US had a mutual understanding. So it made them to accept only is a dollar. So that's where the dollar is getting day by day, it's highly valued and it is strengthened because of this is a very inelastic demand. As we all know that oil is become in inelastic demand and oil plays a crucial role in any country's development and a growth. So there was a tremendous growth as seen in demanding the dollars after introduction of petrodollar. So this has strengthened the US dollar as a global reserve currency. And oil rich nations like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, reinvested US dollars in US treasury bonds, stocks and global banks. Because as it received tremendous receipts in a dollar forms, so these nations not only keeping just savings, they also started participating in international currency market or international financial products by way of investing in the treasury bonds and the stocks. So this is, we can call as recycling of even petro dollar. So the monetary policy influence of this petrodollars also, if you see, the Federal Reserves, that is America's central bank, is known as the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve policies impacted global liquidity due to high dollar demand. I told you already why the dollar is demanded, because of oil, the crude oil. And it is not even we are importing directly oil from the USA. Even if you want to bring from the Gulf nations or the most rich oil countries, so you have to make the payment in the dollars only. So in the recent form, the petro dollars also is become a big challenge by the various other countries. Russia and China oil trade in yuan, because as we know today, China also wants to dominate in the global economy, particularly because Chinese exports are very high across the globe, including USA and also to India. So China want to be as a global reserve currency, and it is trying to push yuan to a global currency. So, and it is challenging this petrodollar system also. That why we need to, because we all know Russia is also having very good oil reserves. So China is, and Russia is also somewhere is always against to the dominance of the dollar in the global market. So these two countries also had a major agreement in this. So that's a story of petrodollar. Now let's come back to this euro dollar market. What is this euro dollar market? We heard about petrodollars and oil countries. Then what is this euro dollar market? So this euro dollar market refers to the market where US dollars are deposited in foreign banks. Right? Very clear, the euro dollar market refers to the market where US dollars are deposited in foreign banks or in the foreign branches of US banks. Okay, like suppose say other than the America banks, so people are deposited in the banks. So outside the jurisdiction of the Federal Reserve. That means the Federal Reserve will not have control or supervision on those. Then how this has started, this euro dollar market, though the euro dollar market is not popular as the petrodollar, but it also very important player in the global currency markets. In the 1950s, the euro dollar market emerged when the Soviet Union, fearing that US assets may freeze and deposit in dollars holding in European banks, mainly again in London. I repeat, the euro dollar market emerged when the Soviet Union, fearing that US assets freezes, so and deposited its dollars in holdings in European banks. Over time, it is expanded. Multinational corporations, governments, financial institutions began using these offshore dollar accounts. So what is this key major characteristics of this market? Offshore market, that is outside the USA banking. This all the transactions takes place outside the US banking system, because we believe generally in any domestic currency it may takes in their respective currency systems, but this works outside the US banking system. Because in the euro dollar market it is purely unregulated, it is not subject to Federal Reserve the rules, so it allowing greater flexibility, so people can adapt and go, and it also having high liquidity in the market, because this become one of the largest financial market which is facilitating the large volume of transactions. And interestingly, here also there is a very low interest rates are offered due to the reduced regulatory cost, because central bank, who is the regulatory authority, is not controlled these activities. So since the regulatory costs are low, euro dollars deposits typically offers lower interest rates than US domestic deposits. And also there is, as I told you about LIBOR, London Interbank Offer Rate. This is a standard interest rates which has taken across the globe. And this euro dollar deposits historically influenced this LIBOR, which was the benchmark for the global rates. And presently this LIBOR is trying to replaced with SOFR. So then what is the importance of this euro dollar? Okay, when you look at in terms of global trade and investments, the euro dollar used for international loans, trade finances and corporate financing, and alternative to USA banks, because people not just depending on the USA, it is also having alternative to borrow through this euro dollar market. So it allows entities to hold and borrow dollars without USA oversight. And monetary policy impact. Since the Federal Reserve does not control these dollars, it limits the US direct influence on the global dollar supply. So for example, if you see the euro dollar transaction, a Japanese bank in London accepting USA dollar deposit. A Japanese bank in London. It is not the London bank is accepting. UK, it is not. In the UK, the Japan bank which is accepting in a dollar deposits. So that's a truly internationalization of various currencies. And multinational companies borrowing dollars from European financial institutions, because the dollar official currency, the fiat currency, is the USA, which every one of us knows. But when you want loans, you no need to look for the USA. You can also borrow from this various other financial institutions as they have the reserves of it. How these recent trends and challenges, if you look at, because we have been talking about whether it is the petrodollar or the euro dollar. So as I also briefly mentioned that China is aspiring to be a standard global currency, because USA today going through serious structural challenges, be it unemployment, higher rate of interest rates. So the US economy losing their jobs in their domestic economy, particularly Trump has trying to revive their economy by bringing a lot of tax reforms as well. We have seen the tariffs are increased on various products like even steel and aluminium. So the USA dominance and aggressive policies as throwing to think that why can't we have other alternative currencies. So the global economies are somewhere started questioning the dollar dominancy, despite they have consistent current account deficit for decades together, because every country now is trying to protect the dollar, because every country have very good forex reserves in the form of dollars. So now people are started talking about de-dollarization, particularly like as I told you, China, Russia, even Iran are trying to trade in their own currencies instead of USA dollar. Even for that matter, the government of India in the last couple of years, you could see they have entered direct trade agreements, pay in our own currency, domestic currency, almost with more than 20 countries. That means whenever we want to buy or sell any commodity, we made a mutual agreement with those countries. Straight you can pay them in the rupees and import the goods. And whenever you want to buy from other countries, for instance, say if you want to buy the goods from Russia, so the Russia will accept Indian rupee and India will also accept the ruble as a medium of transaction. So the many countries started coming up with the bilateral trade agreements so that they can comfortably pay in their own domestic currencies. So their prices or the exchange rate will be competitive based on their export value to those countries. So this we are seeing in a very bigger way. China, though it is trying to de-dollarize it, but it is cautiously playing a role relatively less because the China itself have lot of forex reserves in the form of dollar. So if the dollar suddenly gets depreciated, so more than America, the China would be worst affected. So hence, China is also playing very strategically and with the slow motion, the slow game to see that the de-dollarization comes not only from just China across the globe. So it's trying to get reduced the share of the dollar also in their reserves. So as I told you, because these days the cryptocurrencies are rising very bigger way and every country has its own apprehensions in adopting these cryptocurrencies as a official currency. Alternatively, they are came up with the digital currencies, that is a central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. So this is also posing a new threat to the dollar because many of the countries would like to bring this digital currencies so that it plays a very crucial role in coming days. And USA is also not only in terms of the dominance today trying to impose financial sanctions on various countries. If any nation, any country goes against the philosophy and the policies of the American economy, and if they don't listen the advice by the American economy, they're trying to put financial sanctions on those countries so that they would go through a serious implication. We have seen recently Russia-Ukraine war time, America has imposed financial sanctions on Russia, asking to stop attacking on the Ukraine. If don't agree, then their payment gateways will not be allowed to use. That is a SWIFT payments. That is the payment gateway called as SWIFT payments. What is the payment gateway? As simple as our UPI payments. Today we all make payments in our own UPI using your Google Pay, Phone Pay or any other various platforms with the UPI payments with comfortably. But the moment if any one of us are blocked for not using this UPI payments, then if you are a business person, you may have certain challenges because most of the customers prefer these days, a lot of studies has proved to that they would like to make payments through UPI transactions. So that may affect their business. Similarly, when USA was imposed, because the SWIFT payment gateway is developed and dominated by the US, so it has banned Russia to that any country wants to trade and make payments to them or receive payments, it is prohibited. So they have to make a alternative payment gateways. That's the reason you would see that in USA, though Russia has been going with their own payment gateways for the last couple of years. So though USA was imposed financial sanctions, but Russia has gone a bold step ahead and able to survive without even the SWIFT payments. Even Russia has opened trade account, that Vastro accounts with India, so that India directly can trade and buy and sell with that. So that's where we could see that the currency war, you can say, in the global economies, that who has to lead and how this is going to impact the entire international trade is a big concern. So because Russia was going against even in Iran and Russia, so people are feeling that even accessing the Petro dollars and Euro dollars become a major challenge, and so people are looking forward to make an alternative currencies. And as we all know today, the global economies are moving in a bigger way in the renewable energy growth, right? So has seen that dependency on the crude oil and the natural resources depletion is growing very significant. So most of the economies are promoting in a bigger scale to have a renewable energy growth. So the moment if you are able to increase your renewable energy, this may reduce demand for our oil and it will further have negative impact on petrodollar system. That's the reason if you follow the news, recently USA was walked out from the popular Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement, which is also known to reduce the CO2 emission levels to the pre-industrialization level area. That is, wants to reduce below 2% of this carbon. At the time, the USA and many major global economies signed on the Paris Agreement, but unfortunately, soon after the Trump has taken over, said that this global warming is just a hypothetical and is not realistic, and there is no such global warming exists, investing huge money on it, it's a waste of our resources. They said that we are out from this Paris Agreement. Though it has moved out, but rest of the global economy firmly has agreed to move towards increasing the renewable energy production in their respective countries, and also to extend cooperation between the nations. So this also may, once the renewable energy production increases scale in a substantially, it can also put the dominance of the petrodollar system in the down. Okay, so we need to understand the overall the dynamics of petro and euro dollar. If you see the whole story of your petrodollar and euro dollar market, it is strategically USA has introduced these two currencies so that it become, because these are the major global exporting nations, be it your oil or even other commodities, the major stakeholders, if these are adopted the dollars so that it will remain as a standard currency. So that was the idea with this petro and euro dollars as came into the picture in the global market, and it has today dollar is continued to rise despite the global recession, and USA itself, it is in the very serious condition. Dollar is able to maintain its value on par or the standardized because of the presence of the dollar in across the globe. So the people, not only USA citizens or the US economy protecting the dollar value, it is other major global economies also trying to protect the dollar value so that they will also not lose their forex values in international market. So that's the strengthening of the dollar is putting pressure on the rupee. Today the rupee is depreciated because of though Indian economies, even if you look at IMF projections or World Bank projections in the global economy, across the global economy, beat any other country, we are growing at more than 5.5%. I think the latest 2025 February estimates again projected that it goes more than 6% growth rate per annum in India. But despite that positive signs, positive projections from the international financial agencies, it's put pressure on the rupee because of the USA is trying to invite, because we have seen the gold card method, people who wants the USA citizenship come with your significant investments, so you will get a citizenship, and interest rates are also hiked. So anyway, they have sudden strategical plans to pull or keep that dollar in that way, but equally now the other major players in the global economy trying their best to bring down the dollar dominance so that the arrogancy of the US economy would decrease, and that will add positively to the economy. To come to the conclusion in the petrodollar and euro dollars, so in entire the global trade, we see that the petrodollars and euro dollars are reinforce the US dominancy, the global trade as well as the finance. However, emerging financial systems and geopolitical changes are slowly challenging this dominance. So as a student of economics, I would say the students, please do follow the market news and what factors are influencing, how effectively our India's strategy forex market is playing crucial role. So that will help us to plan and better understanding of our country's international finance as well as the trade. So simply in the nutshell that the strategy and idea of the euro dollar and petrodollar has improved the dominance of the America's economy, but emerging economies has seen the threat and the risk of the American economy. Now every other country is trying to push their own domestic currencies, and in the near future we may see a downfall of the dollar as well. Thanks for your attention.